We can't stop frying food. It's simply too good. Southern fried chicken, fried fish, golden French fries. I have to admit, I love it too. It's hard to get people to stop frying foods. But what we can do is tell you the healthiest way to prepare fried foods. It actually sounds a little crazy putting healthy and fried foods in the same sentence. But if you're going to have a meal with fried foods, then why shouldn't you understand the best way to do a bad thing? Let's start with why it's so bad. Frying foods alone adds calories. Some say 60% more than just frying versus baking. So when you take a wing, flour it, and drop it in oil versus placing it in a pan and baking it in the oven, it can make a huge difference. The roasted wing, 290 calories versus the fried wing, 478 calories. If you're on a diet, the calories can really add up. How many wings do you eat at a time? 4? I heard you say 4. Okay, well 4 times 478 is 1,912. Almost 2,000 calories for fried wings versus 1,100 calories by baking those 4 wings. You want to compare more foods and calories? Go to twofoods.com and enter in whatever 2 foods you want to compare, and this will tell you the calories and a whole lot of other information. This is a great resource and it's completely free. So now back to oils. Let's start with the best oil to use. You've heard about trans fat, saturated fat, unsaturated fat, and polyunsaturated fat, right? Well, trans or saturated fats are bad, and unsaturated fats, both mono and polyunsaturated, are better. Trans fats are the shortening or stick margarines that we used years ago and are solid at room temperature. They've been removed from a ton of foods, and most restaurants don't use them anymore, but trans fats are still out there in some places, so you need to be aware. A number of health experts will proceed to confuse you about which oil is best, and the range of suggestions can be dizzying. Why? Because there are a number of different perspectives on which and why one oil is better than the other. Let's take butter, for example. It went from being terrible for you, so bad that they invented margarine for use in its place, and then they discovered that butter was actually better and margarine was terrible. And now they sort of settled in that butter is really not harmful or helpful, and it's certainly better than margarine. And since it's tasty, there's no problem with using it. When comparing the long list of oils on the market, there are going to be some experts who will support one oil over another based on what it's made up of. Some preferring more polyunsaturated fats and others preferring more monounsaturated fats. This chart here explains why olive oil is so loved in the culinary world. High monounsaturated fat and low saturated fat. Look at coconut oil with super high saturated fat and low unsaturated fat. But believe it or not, there are still some experts who will say coconut oil is good for some people. If you don't know the oil, how can you tell if it's bad or good? The answer is in its state at room temperature. Coconut oil, palm oil, beef fat, pork fat, chicken fat, they're all solid at room temperature. That's usually a sign that it's not good for you. As you add more polyunsaturated fat, the more resistant to solidification or turning solid the oil becomes over time. So olive oil, safflower or sunflower oil, and grapeseed oil or wheat germ oil, they're all resistant to turning solid in a refrigerator. The oils at the bottom of the chart have the most monounsaturated fat, and they will start to solidify with colder temperatures. The important thing is don't clutter your brain with too many different oils. Just pick a healthy oil and stick to it. Good oils are canola oil, corn oil, peanut oil, sunflower oil, and olive oil. So if you're cooking, canola oil or peanut oil will fry up chicken, fish, or whatever else you want fried with a flavorful, crunchy outcome. Eating a salad, sauteing vegetables or a stir fry or something, use extra virgin olive oil or grapeseed oil. Both are healthy and flavorful. So you got it? Frying, you want to use canola, corn, or peanut oil. And if you're eating or marinating foods, olive oil or grapeseed oil. It's really that simple. So what didn't I say? Vegetable oil. Vegetable oil, which is really soybean oil, but that sounds a lot less appetizing, tends to break down faster than the other oils, so I left it off the preferred list. It's mainly because vegetable oil tends to get old too fast. Now, let's talk about old oil, or what my grandmother called grease. She had a container that sat by the stove and it had a little filter in it, and she would pour bacon grease and chicken oil and sausage drippings or whatever into it. And it sat there. And whenever she needed some oil to make gravy or whatever, she would scoop some out and use it. But it's the absolute worst way to keep oil. It was too close to the heat of the cooktop, it was too old, and it was mixed with too many things. So now you remember, we talked about trans fat and saturated fat. Well, simply cooking an oil can change a good oil into a bad oil over time. And some of my patients will reuse the frying oil almost until it's black. The heat causes the breakdown of many oils and forms trans fats, which have been associated with this increased heart disease and strokes that we've seen. The breakdown seen with reusing oils varies based on the oil and the type of food being cooked. And again, with olive oil showing a great resistance to breakdown, whereas soybean or vegetable oil showing increased breakdown with every repeated use. The more you use an oil, the more breakdown and the more trans fats. So common sense can usually tell you when to throw an oil away. The darker the oil, the greater the oil breakdown, the higher the trans fat formation. Toss it out. Do you see foam on the top of the oil? That's also an indication that it's time probably to throw away the oil. Generally, if you've used an oil 2 or 3 times, it's time to throw it out. One more important reason to throw away that old cooking oil is it actually may cause cancer. A little known problem with frying foods is it causes the formation of a chemical reaction that produces advanced glycation in products. AGEs we call them. And these AGEs are linked to cancer cell growth in cancer of the liver, cancer of the pancreas, and breast cancer. As cooking oil is heated and used and reused, these AGEs form and become higher in number with each use of the oil. Once eaten, these substances circulate in your body and have been suspected to increase diabetes, cause premature aging, increase your weight, worsen your circulation and kidney function, and cause a progression of heart failure and heart disease. Wow, all that can come from using old grease. It's hard to believe, but it's true. And when you think about African Americans having the worst outcomes with diabetes, colon cancer, prostate cancer, kidney disease, breast cancer, and heart disease, you think about that the next time you decide you can use that cooking oil just one more time. Don't risk it. Buy a new bottle. And don't keep the bottle by the stove. Store it in a cool, dark place somewhere in your kitchen. So in summary, watch your calories by choosing baked over fried. You can cut them in half. And when frying, choose a healthy oil like canola. In salads and with cooking vegetables, use olive oil, extra virgin. And after using the oil, please, just throw it away. Because each use is increasing your risk for bad health later in life. That's it for now. I'm Dr. Greg Hall.